If any of you are out there, go ahead and log in and ping me so we know what's happening. If any of you guys are already online, go ahead and send me a comment and tell me where you're coming from. Hello, everybody. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you guys are logged on. I've got too many different things happening, and it looks like I've got about a minute delay or minute and a half delay. That's just part of YouTube. So if you do put your comments up, it'll take a little bit before they're actually that I get to see them and everybody else can. So don't be worried. It's just the delays built into YouTube. I think everything else is working okay. So while we're waiting for people to catch up, I am Mike Sokol from RV Electricity and the No Shock Zone. I've been writing for the RV industry for the last 10 years or so. I've got 50 years of background in every kind of electrical power and electronic system you can possibly imagine. And I am really, really happy to be here teaching you guys. I've got some really, really interesting stuff coming up in this particular webcast. But this is my basic RV electricity seminar here, done for you, which you'll be able to watch anytime in complete whatever. And of course, what will happen is you'll be able to see this over and over again as many times as you want until you're absolutely sick of it. And as me as well. So this will go on warts and all. And if you've got any questions here, go ahead and post them up in the main comment section. And then I'll see them, and anything interesting I'll drag on over there. How does that sound? Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and begin our PowerPoint presentation. Okay, you should all see that. Again, you're about 1 minute behind me, it looks like, but it's catching up. Okay, so this is my RV Basic Electricity Seminar, and is brought to you by a number of really, really good sponsors. Southwires, who produces Surge Guard units, and of course, we're going to discuss that a little bit, but they're very interested in the education of consumers about anything that has to do with electrical grounding and high voltage and the whole bit. Soft Start RV. And they make that really interesting controller that reduces the peak starting current of your air conditioner so you can run them on smaller generators and such. Smart Plug, who makes a really, really great plug that you can use to actually connect into the side of your RV without that twist lock stuff. And Car Generator. I'm going to have Jonathan Shalhoub, founder and CEO of Car Generator. He'll be on probably about 40 minutes or so we can go ahead and if you guys have any questions, you can ask him about his product and how it works and how he started it and all that other stuff. So I don't see any questions. I've got a thumbs up. I've got some people actually starting to come on. Let's go ahead and get rolling here. If you need to catch up later, you can always scroll back to the beginning. So I got interested in RV electricity because I'd heard of a number of my sound engineering buddies, my colleagues, that had been getting shocked off of tour buses. And once I started looking at all of the stuff that was written about why this happened, I thought that I could do a pretty good job of discovering how it works and ways to fix all of this for everybody. We have somebody just logged in here. Somebody says, hello, Mike. Okay, Gary Gorski. There we go, Gary. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Gary. Okay, so we've got somebody that's coming in on here. Okay, good. And of course, I thought it would be a really, really good thing to be able to teach everybody. I've been a seminar instructor for over 30 years and writing for all of the pro audio magazines. My main gig, as you guys all have main gigs, is pro audio. But before that, I was I used to build and calibrate nuclear guidance system components for the military, and before that, I was a robotics designer, systems controller designer for Corning Glass. And before that, I was a kid that was building every darn thing that I could get my hands on. And so I thought, okay, why aren't these things safe? But the fact of the matter is 99.99% of the time, RVs are built actually safe. The failures that I've seen seems to be in the outlets. So plugging your RV into an outlet that's improperly wired can in fact electrify the chassis and cause all kinds of problems. Or you can get over voltage conditions, under voltage conditions. A lot of this has to do with wiring, how you plug them in. And an open neutral and a 50 amp service can allow your 120, 240 volt split phase system to not divide up evenly into 120 and 120 volts. So it can actually go 200 volts on the one side and 40 volts on the other leg. And just, I guarantee you the expensive stuff will be over on the high voltage side. So I got interested because people kept talking about this hot skin condition, and no other industry really describes it as such, but it really works out to an RV that has the body of it, the chassis, or what you might call the skin, gets a certain voltage on it above ground potential. That is the dirt potential beneath your feet. And in fact, what you end up with is something that once you get to about 30 volts or so, it can begin to get dangerous. So this is where we kind of set the limits. There are normal things that happen from the power company that can induce maybe 4 or 5 volts coming into your ground just from your substation coming in, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're interested in these things that hit, 10, 20, 30 volts. 30 volts gets dangerous. And if you touch any metal part on the RV and the ground at the same time, you can get a shock or even electrocution. So what you don't want to do is complete the circuit. And you see our poor little guy right here. He's touching an RV doorknob that maybe, or handle, it might be up to 100 volts. And the current can flow through your heart and out your feet. So if your feet are damp and your shoes are damp and your hands damp and you touch this thing, you can get enough voltage, enough current through you that can cause your heart to go into fibrillation. And that's when your heart just kind of goes wubba, 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 and won't actually won't be pumping blood. And that's the dangerous part when that happens. So the key to all of these things, and I'm not talking just about RVs, I'm talking about anything around your home, on your stage, on your work, in your work. If you feel a shock, that is the time to take it seriously. Even if you've been shocked before dozens of times, the next one could be deadly. So if you feel a tingle while you're touching your RV, or you're touching your TV set, or you're touching your power tools while you're plugged in, or any of these things, you've got some kind of a hot skin voltage on there, which can be dangerous. If you see that you have a worn out wire or one that's taped up or one that's broken or whatever, you want to fix it immediately. And if that still doesn't correct it, you want to get a technician out there to go find out what's going on with the grounding problems, because I guarantee you there is. We'll talk a little bit about that shortly. So I think that everybody should have a basic meter kit. And so this guy right here is just three of these things. It's got a regular digital meter. I like the manual ranging ones the best because you kind of know exactly what you're looking at. The automatic ones tend to have a lot more settings that can be confusing. These are pretty simple. And they'll also come with what I call a 3-light tester, an outlet tester, which is pretty handy. It's not conclusive on everything, but it's at least a beginning. And a non-contact voltage tester. You can get an entire kit of these things over at any of the big box stores for less than $40. In fact, I think this little Southwire one at Lowe's is like $30. And it's a fabulous deal. Even if you yourself don't know how to use it, if you go to any of the forums, especially my RV Electricity forum, I've got some really, really great admins and moderators there. And the first thing we're going to ask you to do is you need to measure a voltage and tell us something. That will help us figure this entire thing out. So it really is the best way. You can use it to test batteries. You could test power coming in. You can test grounding. You can test all kinds of stuff, and we'll help you. Okay. The meter kit, everyone needs to have a basic kit. So you can buy a quality digital meter for around $20 in any big box store. And I really like manual ranging meters a lot. Let me just show you something here. Let me see if I can jump down. There we go. So right here, this is just a little basic Southwire meter. And you can see once you turn it on, and this range over here, this is the 600 volt range. It measures up to 600 volts Over here, it measures up to 200 volts. Over here, it's in DC volts. Down here, let's see, where is it? This is where you're measuring ohms down here. It has a continuity test. These are really simple little meters. They're reasonably accurate, within a volt or so of my rather high-end Fluke meters that cost $1,000 or more. So I think that these are a really, really great deal for everybody. They truly are. Non-contact voltage testers. I pioneered the use of these testers, which are really only for electricians, but I pioneered the use of them to find hot skin conditions in our recreational vehicles, and they really, really work great for that. So you can get one for $15 if you want. They're rated for, like, they'll say like 100 to 1,000 volts or whatever. But if you're testing something as large as an RV, it will actually find hot skin potential down as little as 30 or 40 volts. So you want to make sure that any non-contact voltage tester is working. What you do is you turn it on and test the powered outlet first, and then check your RV, and then recheck the outlet. That's really the correct way to do this. Make sense? Basic outlet testers, again, you can buy these for $10 or part of that $30 kit. They've got 3 lights on them. And what they'll do is they'll give you a hint as to, if the outlet is wired reverse polarity, if it has an obviously open ground, a few other things it'll tell you. Just be aware that there's a number of things that it cannot find, it won't discover. It can't tell you high voltage and low voltage. And also be aware that reverse polarity by itself cannot cause a hot skin condition. That's just an old wives' tale. The proper way to do this is not really that complicated. Let me see if I can get back to my other screen. There we go. So it really is a matter of making sure you grab this properly. Now, first off, this is what I picked up. This is the Klein Tools one. I think this had a recall on it. Whoa. What you're going to do is you're going to just turn it on and make sure that it beeps. See, this was a recall. This one's dead. Yep, I took the battery out already. Sorry, guys. And then you're going to test an outlet to know that it's on. And then it's a matter of just placing it over close to your recreational vehicle. And if it beeps at you, that means you've got a voltage. Now, interestingly, when you're testing just plain wires with this, it's really only good for, looking for as low as 90 or 100 volts, just for a little skinny wire. But if you in fact have a large surface that's energized, this will in fact light up and beep at you from 1 to 2 feet away, which will certainly get your attention. And it's not just the skin of the RV, it's the wheels, it's the bumper, it's your tow vehicle that's hooked to it. Virtually everything, propane tanks, everything is energized with 120 volts. And remember, you're sitting on rubber tires, completely insulated from the dirt. And so consequently, if you touch that RV while you're standing on wet soil, then you can have those fault currents pass through you. And that's the real danger of this kind of a thing, of a danger of a hot skin condition. Okay, let's talk a little bit about pedestal measurement. So pedestal is basically defined as a temporary shore power connection for your RV. You can put them in your house, but they have them all over the place at campgrounds. They'll come in a 30 amp only version, or a 20 and 30 amp version, or 20 and 30 and 50 amp version. Basically, all will supply the 120 volts that your RV needs. Virtually no standard RVs actually are wired to use a full 240 volts. They do use 2 separate 120 volt circuits from a 50 amp service, which is technically a 50 amp split phase service. But it just really is a matter of how much amperage and how much power you've got available for each type of connection. So here's how you would measure an outlet for 120 volts. And you can see on the left, a standard Edison outlet over here is wired up really the same way as the 30 amp. Now, even though that 30 amp thing looks like it's big, it should have 240 volts. It, in fact, is 120 volts wired up exactly the same way as your regular Edison outlet that you might have in your house. And in fact, what it is definitely not 240 volts. It is 120 volts. Crazy, huh? Your big outlet, your 50 amp, is wired up just like a stove outlet in your house. And it's set up for 240 volts across the hot 1 and hot 2. And should have very close to 0 volts between neutral and ground, but it can be 2 or 3 volts and still be okay. And you can see from hot 1 to neutral, ought to measure 120 volts, and from hot 2 to neutral, ought to measure 120 volts, and from hot 1 to hot 2 has to measure like 240 volts. It can, in fact, measure 208 volts in some places, just depending on what's going on. Let me just click a button here. There we go. Yep, there we go. We've got Jonathan Schlews coming on. So let's see if he wants to say hi for a second. He's in the green room. Hey, Jonathan. I don't think he's ready to come on yet. I went in the green room a little too early. We'll come back. We'll come back and pick him up later after a bit. One really important thing to realize is do not cut off the ground pins in any of your connections. And I see this sometimes. This is really, really bad. Somebody's trying to plug their RV into a cheapy extension cord, or their extension cord. They busted off the ground pins because they were plugging into an ungrounded outlet. And then when you do that, you remove the ability of your RV's chassis to be properly grounded. And that's when it can get dangerous. And that creates a shock potential. Basically, if you unground any of these things, you have, there we go. You have the ability to develop that 120 volt hot skin. So you never want to cut off the ground pins. You never want to use one of these little isolation ground lift adapters that you can buy at Lowe's for $1. I don't see how in the world they sell these things. They're dangerous as all get out. Never ever use that. Always plug into a properly grounded receptacle. Always. Another important tip: turn the breakers off before you plug or unplug it. And so if you notice, sometimes people, when you plug these things in, you'll have like a big arc that jumps across, or when you unplug it, you'll have an arc. And so what happens with that is that's eating away the brass contacts in there, and eventually just will destroy them. So if you don't want to be replacing your plugs every couple of years, make sure that you turn your breakers off on the pedestal. Now, some campgrounds may not have breakers on there, but I got to tell you, that is a pretty big code violation. But again, there's not a lot of inspectors checking on campgrounds. So the best you can do is to turn off the breakers in your own RV before you plug this in, so you don't have this big surge that goes and starts messing up with things. Another thing that's hard for people to realize is the fact that pedestal wattage is king. Amperage is okay, but the real thing is watts. If you get it to watts, now you can convert to anything. So that 20 amp outlet in your house, that is or the one that you plug into, looks like a regular Edison outlet, is only good for 2,400 watts. So it's rated for 20 amps times 120 volts, and that's equals to 2,400 watts of power. Watts is actually power. It's not energy. Energy would be watt hours, but I digress. 30 amp outlet can provide up to 3,600 watts. So that 30 amp is only 50% more power than that little 20 amp Pretty amazing, but it's true. That's all it is. 3,600 watts, which is why we have to really worry about this and do manual load shedding when we're in a campground plugged into a 30 amp service. And a 50 amp outlet can provide 12,000 watts. So you can see that's a lot more power. That's 50 amps times 120 volts. It's 6,000 watts per leg. Leg 1 is good for 6,000 and leg 2 is good for 6,000. You add those together, it's 12,000 watts, 100 amperes of total power at 120 volts is what you have at your disposal. Now, interestingly, in your house, if you have a 200 amp service, that's 200 times 2, because you've got 2 separate legs. That's 48,000 watts. So your normal home power has 48,000 watts. Even a big RV outlet's only 12,000 watts, a quarter of that. And again, you generally have a lot less power. So there you go. You also want to watch out for dryer outlets because the 30 amp 120 volt TT30 looks a lot like an old style 230 volt dryer outlet. You may hire a residential electrician to go ahead and put you a 30 amp outlet on the back of your house. I get emails practically every week from somebody that has wired one of those up to 240 volts. And then if you plug your 30 amp RV into that thing, guess what? It will fry your electrical system in seconds. And this is also why I think it's important that every RV needs to have a good surge protector, that an EMS, electrical management system style surge protector. And here's what happens. If you look at it, on the left is what an RV receptacle looks like, a 30 amp, 120 volt TT30, right? And it's 120 volts. Trust me on this. If you go look over on the right side, that is what a dryer receptacle looks like, the old school 3-wire dryer receptacle. And it is wired up with 2 hot leads and 1 L-shaped neutral/ground. But I got to tell you, what you don't want to do is make a mistake and let somebody wire up that new 30 amp TT30 receptacle with 240 volts. I never ever trust new receptacles. I see a new box, a new receptacle. You do not know who has put that in and who has tested it. Test everything yourself. Okay, hooking up RV power. Most RVs use a twist lock connector to connect shore power to the RV. If you don't connect them properly, you can develop a high resistance connection and cause a meltdown. You can get a system voltage drop, over voltage from an open neutral, a hot skin contact voltage, or even a fire. All new Airstreams use a product from SmartPlug, which I think is an amazing thing. We'll talk about that momentarily. Oh, there it is. So you can see at the top, that's a twist lock connector. Now, a lot of people don't understand, and I don't know why, the requirement of how to install it is in the name. We call it twist lock because you have to push it in and then twist it about 1/8 of an inch, just a tiny little bit, to make it lock in. And if you do not do that, it does not make full contact. And then the next thing you got to do is spin on that ring, because if you don't, that thing will twist its way out of there. The weight of the wiring can actually drag that thing out. So those are kind of hard to use. Smart plugs this is really a great product. It's a marine grade unit. It's got 20 times the surface area of a standard twist lock connector. And basically you just pop it on there and it locks in. Now, if you're not lucky enough to have one right now, you can in fact go to smartplug.com and they'll sell you one. You can either retrofit it on the end of your cord, or you can buy the entire cord set. And in fact, the other part that fits inside of your RV, in 99% of the cases, that's something that you can do yourself. I've only seen a couple of them that they made the wires so short inside that you couldn't pull them back out to get to it. But it's a far, far superior system. They come in both 30 amp and 50 amp versions. I like this product a lot. Dog bone adapter is another thing that you've got to watch out for. If you look at the top, you can use them to safely hook up a 50 amp RV, right, into a 30 amp plug or a receptacle that you may have at your campground. And you can, in fact, get it so you can hook it into a 20 amp if you want to. And that's okay. You just have to limit the amount of power that you're using. And typically, if you use too much power, you just trip the breaker. However, you got to be careful with the stuff on the bottom here. So this one, I think, is a really dangerous little gadget. They make this. You can buy this on Amazon right now, but I cannot recommend this. The one side plugs into a 50 amp receptacle and has a 50 amp breaker. But you can see it's got 3 separate 15 amp outlets on it. You could plug this in, hook up a extension cord only rated for like 12 amperes or so, plug in a bunch of stuff at the end of it, and melt down that extension cord in minutes. And I know this because I've done it. Well, I did it on purpose. I didn't do it accidentally. I knew it was going to do it. And so these bottom ones, you've got to be really careful with. The top one's actually quite safe. And in fact, you could take a 50 to 30 amp connector. And I think that even that's relatively safe. It's not that terribly dangerous as long as you're only hooking it into one thing. That would be your RV. Is that making sense, guys? Okay, let's talk a little bit about surge protectors. Okay, they come in all sizes and joule ratings. So we'll talk about joule ratings in just a minute. So a home surge strip offers this voltage spike protection for just a single circuit. However, your RV needs a large enough surge device that will protect its entire electrical system. So it's got to be a little bit bigger. But let's talk about surge, what this all means. So actually, a voltage surge, I don't like the word surge a whole lot. It's not really descriptive of it electronically. It's more of a voltage spike. A surge is generally defined as a short duration over voltage event that can measure 200 to 2000 volts or more. And spikes are just much, much shorter. They're usually a few milliseconds. They can be from a nearby lightning event hitting the ground, or, for instance, if you have a big, large motor like a well pump or something kicking off, they will create a huge back voltage that will create this big spike. And it kind of looks like this. You're seeing down on the bottom here, this thing's going along, it's just a little 120 volt sine wave, and all of a sudden you can have a 2000 volt spike that goes into all your electronics. Even if it doesn't destroy it the first time, it starts wearing it out. So most of these surge protectors use something that's called a MOV device, and they clamp the energy. Anything over 300 volts, they absorb themselves. And they're rated in what we call joules, and a joule is a watt-second of energy absorption or protection. And basically what you're looking for is a surge protector that has the maximum amount of joules. So basically it's, let me see if I've got a slide on here. Okay. What will happen is those joules get used up. You'll see that there's a little light on these surge protectors that says that the protection is enabled or is on okay. However, if something happens and, after a while, you'll wear this out. So if you've got something that's got, say, 2,400 joules of protection, you could hit it 2,400 times with 1 joule incidence, or say 240 times with each spike being 10 joules, or 24 times with each one being 100 joules. And then when they wear out, that little light goes out and you've lost all of your surge protection. And the key thing to remember is you can either replace a module or sometimes the whole device, depending on which brand unit you have. But those things have given up their life in order to help protect you. They may, in fact, just blow up and just short out the entire thing if it gets hit with a close enough lightning strike. And I've seen a number of units just like that. So it is really a matter of making sure that you pick the best one possible, something that's got the highest energy rating. And when they wear out, it could be 10 years, replace the thing. There's 2 versions of these. A basic surge protector that you can get for $100 only has those MOV devices, only has the metal oxide varistors. They can't protect you from overvoltage or undervoltage or open ground. The only thing they defend your electrical system from is voltage spikes that last less than, far less than a second. They cannot stop an over voltage condition. They'll just happily dump 240 volts into your RV and boom. All of these major surge manufacturers also make intelligent ones, what we call EMS surge protectors. So the EMS advanced ones will have a voltage monitoring system and a relay that disconnects your RV from a dangerous voltage. In fact, when you plug them in, they'll generally take anywhere from 8 seconds to 30 seconds or a minute or more before they decide that the power is okay, and they'll go ahead and shut it off. And so they monitor for over voltage, under voltage, open ground conditions, and they also include MOV-based voltage spike protection. Some of them include Bluetooth monitoring, so you can look and see how much power you're using. So let's see, is any of you other guys online that you want to come in and say howdy hi where you're coming from? You're about a minute or so behind in terms of this, so when you do, go ahead and poke it up there, and I'll do a shout out to you. How's that? I'm actually webcasting from lovely Funkstown, Maryland, from my adjunct Funkworks lab. Get it? Instead of Skunkworks. Funkworks lab, yes. Okay, so here is the basic surge protector. You can see a little unit, maybe costs $100. It's got a couple of lights on it that shows you the basic conditions, but they really can't do anything to protect you from the big bad stuff. They cannot disconnect you from stuff. They only act as a sacrificial element to help eliminate spikes. Whoops. The total one, what they call total protection or EMS for electrical management systems, those are bigger. They got a big relay that goes ka-chunka. They'll have a little screen on there of some sort that will tell you the voltage and current and such. Some of them will actually have a Bluetooth connection to tell you what's going on. Oh, I see. Wait a minute. So Chip says, hi, Mike from Tampa, Florida. Yeah, baby. How's everybody doing down in Tampa? It's pretty hot right here in tiny little Maryland. Good golly. And Rich says, hello, Mike. Greetings from Kentucky. And I just was in Tennessee the other week doing the Airstream thing. I haven't been in Kentucky for a little while, but I get around. I used to drive 50,000 miles a year and fly another 100,000 miles a year doing seminars. I don't do much of that anymore, but I do some. And so Gary says, hi, Mike. Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, so now let's look at these advanced surge protectors. They're larger than basic surge protectors because they have a relay and a computer and a bunch of other stuff going on inside of them. But, which one do you need? Basic surge protector can defend you against little short duration spikes, but it cannot disconnect your RV from an over or under voltage condition. So you really need an EMS surge protector to monitor and disconnect you from dangerous stuff. Basic surge protectors cost less than $100. EMS units cost $300 to $400. Now I know you guys don't want to hear that, but I think that's cheap insurance. So the key here is, okay, let's say that you've got a insurance deductible of $500. Okay, first off, when something happens, you're going to end up $500 out of your pocket. But the really big problem is you have to factor in the weeks or months of downtime to repair your RV's electrical system. In fact, I've got guys that are quoting they're not even going to be able to get an RV into a shop until the end of the year. So let's say that you're going out on a camping trip and you've got the grandkids, all set, and you're going to go fishing or whatever you're going to do, and you've found this really, really great campground. You've got to book these campgrounds a year in advance now. And when you do that, if this thing fails, you're in big trouble, and you've lost that whole season. Wait a second, I've got another one here. Let's see, the ping here. If you're melting up north, we're evaporating here in Florida. Greetings from Pembroke, Pines, Florida. Yes, it is a little hot up here. It is. My northern blood here is can't take this kind of stuff. But we've been up in the upper 90s in Maryland, which is and humid as all get out. Good for some of my air conditioner temperature testing. Not good for all the other stuff. My lawn is brown. I mean, gone. It's dead. Okay, keep the questions, comments coming. Okay, let's see. What does Chip say? Okay, Mike, I've bought a few of the plug-in units in the past. In my opinion, the Progressive Industries hardwired EMS is the best money you can spend after buying an expensive RV. I would agree. And Progressive, they're the ones who coined the terminology for of EMS. It really is. I mean, any of these are good. The big three are all make a good product. That is Southwire and Progressive and Hughes. So some of this is a Ford versus Chevy question. But the biggest point is that you need one. I mean, they come in hardwired units that are inside of your RVs, and they're nice because they don't walk away from you. Or the portable ones that allow you to go check out a pedestal before you accept it. So one of the things that I've seen people do, and it's kind of a shame, they'll go ahead and pull into their camping spot. They'll work parking this thing or backing this thing, and nobody likes backing in trailers. I don't even like backing in trailers anymore. And you'll level them out, and you'll hook up your water and all the other things, get your awning out. And the very last thing they'll do is hook it up to power. And then you'll find that you've got really, really bad power. And you don't want to change, and it's going to take you an hour that you've wasted, making camp to strike camp to get out of there, and then put it in someplace else if they'll give you one. But the key, of course, is how in the world you could carry one of these portable ones out in the golf cart or wherever they take you out to look at, or you walk out and look at it before you do this. Okay, so I got a little message here from Car Generator. So Jonathan Shalou, he says, hello, Airstreamers. Jonathan from Car Generator, live from inside our Airstream. Happy to support and answer any questions. So Jonathan will be on here probably in another 10 minutes. Be able to answer questions, and he will be available for text questions, anything you want to. And I thank Jonathan and Car Generator for supporting RV education. I don't sell anything. I don't fix anything. All I do is I write and I create videos, and I have a full tilt lab. I do now that I can actually do a lot of testing. So that's my main stuff that I'm doing. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay. SurgeGuard products, advanced protection. You can see they've got 30 amp and 50 amp units, and basic protection, there's 30 and 50 amp units from the guys at SurgeGuard. Like I said, Progressive Industries makes a good product, as does Hughes, Power Watchdog. There's a few other little odd ones out there, but I know nothing of them. All of these I've tested, and they all seem to do a really good job. Okay, now we're going to kick over to another little thing that I've done a lot of experimenting with, and that has to do with air conditioners. Boy, oh boy, everybody is complaining about air conditioners right now, and I think the real problem is there's just so much stuff going on. It's so hot, and the power is getting lower, and voltage is getting lower and lower at campgrounds. And the real problem is if you try to go run your air conditioner off of a generator, if you have a small generator or a 2,000 watt generator, many times it won't start it. And that's because there's this huge surge that happens for a fraction of a second every time your compressor starts up. So the guys, I was really interested in, I asked these guys at Soft Start RV to send me a unit, and I asked them how it worked, and they said, well, we know something, but can you detail exactly how it works in terms of reducing the power, how much it reduces the power? So I took that as a challenge. And I found that it can reduce the starting surge from 54 amp peak on a little 13,000 BTU air conditioner down to 24 amps. So I built this device last year. I call Hurdle for high rate data logger. And it allows me to sample the AC current 192,000 times per second. My normal data loggers I had might do 2 times a second or 5 times a second, but it didn't show enough detail. But I was able to get a really, really cool graph that shows exactly what this thing is doing, kind of like in high definition. And here's my graph. In fact, I've got slow motion videos of this showing what it does. You can see the red graph over here on the left, on this side, shows you your normal peak starting current, which lasts for, about 150 milliseconds or so. And once you install the SoftStart RV, what you end up with is a maximum of 24 amp peak that lasts for about 300 milliseconds, about a third of a second or so. And that makes all the difference in the world. And the other key that happens with this is your air conditioner compressor doesn't do like a big bonk when it starts up. Instead of like dropping it into gear and popping the clutch, it actually is like a hydrostatic transmission, like smooths through the power. So these things are really, really cool. They work very, very well. And they will allow you to do tricks like you can run 2 air conditioners plus a few other gadgets on a 30 amp service, as long as you're not power crazy. And I regularly start a 13.5 kBTU Dometic Penguin 2 air conditioner on my little 2200 watt Honda. It's really fabulous at how well this thing works, and it's not terribly hard to install yourself. Okay, so right now, these companies, SurgeGuard, SmartPlug, and SoftStart RV, there's a 10% discount on these products from Techno RV. If you click on any of these logos down here or any of these QR codes, it'll take you to the site. You just put in Sokol10. That's me, SOKOL 10, to get a 10% discount on that. Makes sense, and that'll be good for the next week or two. So go ahead, if you're curious about that stuff, go on their site, put in the Sokol 10 discount. Should be still operating. Okay, next thing here, and we're just going to go through this quickly. Let's see, who have I got here? I've got Michael Cupnell. Says, hello, Mike, Gaithersburg, Maryland. Happy the opportunity to see your session in Tennessee. Oh, you're at Gaithersburg. It's not that far from me. So you made the long trek that I did, right? Good golly, that was a long ways down. Cool. And he says, I was wondering, is it okay to add SoftStart RV to an older unit 10 years? Sometimes messing with older stuff causing problems. I think you should be able to. It replaces the starting capacitor in there. So if your starting capacitor is a little weak, it takes care of that. You want to be careful with the wiring and such, of course. But as you know, I would contact them. You'll be contacting Danny at SoftStart by tonight or tomorrow. I'll go ahead and put a link up here for you guys. You can contact him directly. But it does work rather well on most modern air conditioners that I've seen. Okay, so Jim says, SoftStart added to our 2004 ASO typical Dometic unit. Start current drop from 26 to 18. Older units, yes. They relieve the initial start surge to get past compressor lock to run. Yeah, it is kind of amazing. They just kind of do like a little whoosh when they start up. And that actually helps when you're trying to sleep, because instead of that thing banging away when it comes on, it actually does like a little bit of a ramp up. I am not sure that it would increase the longevity of the components in your compressor, but it certainly can't hurt it. And my gut feel is it probably does help somewhat. Okay, let's talk about the F-150. If you go on rvtravel.com, you'll see tomorrow I've got an article on my towing study. Believe it or not, I started a little thing at the beginning of the year called Go Green RV, so I could start understanding energy efficient tow vehicles and energy efficient RVs and things that are set up for boondocking. And everybody started sending me stuff to play with. Well, there you go. So Ford sent me an F-150 Power Boost hybrid pickup truck. that has a built-in 7,200 watt generator. It can charge your RV with up to 30 amps at 120 volts while towing. I actually did this. Or you can split the connector on it. It actually has a 240 volt outlet on it with the proper adapter, and you can power 2 RVs for up to 85 hours of idling time on a tank of gasoline. I think it's incredible. I have a funny story. While I was at the Airstream show here in Lebanon, Tennessee, a couple weeks ago, I had this, and I was getting ready to power up a 50 amp service for a big Airstream. And by golly, I had a couple of the guys say, no, you can't do that. That Airstream's 120 volts, and this is a 240 volt outlet. And I'm going, no, it'll work. And one guy said, no, you need to go ask that no shock zone guy. He'll set you straight. He understands this. And then I said, I am the no shock zone guy. Really? I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, it does. You can split them off to do either thing. I brought it with me to the show. So yeah, I in the back of it, I went ahead and you see in the lower right, I brought in, that's not a generator, that's a 10,000 watt load bank. So I can actually load this thing with up to, 7,000 watts with 1,000 watt increments. And you can see in the upper right corner here, that's what it shows on the dashboard. I was doing this driving down the road, pulling 7,000 watts off this generator for hours. I thought it was just incredibly cool. Read my article tomorrow on rvtravel.com and you'll learn more. Power Boost Basics. I've got the one with the optional 7,200 watt generator. It's powered by the traction battery under the cab. When the battery runs low after a few minutes, it starts up its own 3.5 liter gas engine and to recharge the battery. And it has a pair of duplex outlets in the truck bed, and it has a 30 amp twist lock, an L1430 twist lock. It's exactly the same thing as you would have in like a 7,000 watt Honda generator. And that's how I know this would all work. And I tested everything, of course. You could power an RV while you're driving down the road with this thing. I played with it, but you want to have a proper disconnect to make that actually safe. And this is what it looks like. They say that you can use this as a contractor's generator during the week. That is, you set your truck there, you let it idle, you plug in your arc welder, you plug in your compressors, you can plug in whatever else you want. You can take that same truck, go boondocking on the weekend if you want with the kids, and you could actually power up 2 RVs at the same time in your little camping spot, you and a buddy. You could run it all weekend without having to bring in any extra gasoline. And it's also temporary power for your house when the electricity goes off, but you want to make sure you have your house properly wired so you can plug a generator in. Okay, now, if you like that, okay, so Jonathan Shalou, and if he's waiting in the wings here, if you only need occasional AC power to supplement solar power, you don't want to haul around a generator and gasoline, there is an alternative. So Car Generator is an interesting box. It comes in 1 kilowatt, 1.5 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, and now 3 kilowatt sizes. Now, once you start getting into that 2 kilowatt and 3 kilowatt, you're going to want to make sure that you have a heavy duty alternator. I think the 3 kilowatt one will probably actually require you to have a heavy duty alternator at idle. That's just part of the game. But this is another alternative to bringing extra generators along with you. So, if you like the F-150 Power Boost, you get similar results at lower power from Car Generator. 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, and 3 kilowatt units now. However, if you run your generator a lot for camping, you'll want to stick with your standard gas generator. But if you just occasionally need extra power, you need to supplement your solar power when the sun doesn't shine, or you want power for home outages. I know guys in California that are buying these because it is a backup to the power grid coming in, because those poor guys are having their power shut off, rolling blackouts to prevent fires. Oh, golly, that would be horrible. But Car Generator is a possible solution for that. And another thing that's interesting, they're really, really lightweight. How many of you have ever moved a 3,000 watt generator around? And I've got one. I will tell you, I have got 4 Honda generators in my little stable of generator things. I have a Honda EX1000, which is a little beefy, but not bad. I have a EU 2000, 2200, which is probably 40-ish pounds. And I have a EU 3000, which I think is 116 pounds, 120 pounds. It's heavy. And I have a 7000. I think that thing's 200 pounds and change. I know I cannot lift it up myself to throw it in the back of the truck. So the lightweight, if for a car generator, the little basic one, if you just need one for battery charging, the 1 kilowatt unit one is great. If you're careful enough, you may be able to get away with starting and running your air conditioner for a while off the 2 kilowatt unit. That's just 15 pounds, and you don't have to mess with bringing extra gasoline. The thing's rainproof, so you can run it out in the rain. You can hook it on the front of your vehicle. Don't do it with it you're driving down the road. There's no extra maintenance. One of the things you have to do with all generators is you want to run them at least every month or two for a while at load. I guarantee you, if you put your generator away and don't touch it for a couple of years, when you come back to it, you're not going to be able to start it. The gas will evaporate out of it, and you'll have a mess. They're quiet. They're not smelly, and there's no hassle. I measured that my vehicle running is in the very, very high 40s or low 50 dB SPLA, which is quieter than a Honda generator. And car generator allows you that same kind of a thing. Like I said, this is something that you can just run while it's idling to do this. It hooks onto the front of your vehicle. There's a variety of units you can get. So let me see. Let me grab something here. Hang on. Da, 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 da. There we go. Let me move this stuff out of the way. This whole thing's a little too big to stick up there. It's big. But I just wanted to show you that it does. You can get it with the optional Anderson Quick Connect, and you can get it so that you can just hook it right onto the batteries temporarily, or you can actually get connections on the version of it so that you can just do a connection all the time inside of your RV, or excuse me, inside of your vehicle, and then be able to just pull the connector apart to move the unit off when you need to. And again, this is another kind of a thing. You can throw it in the closet, throw it in the trunk, and when you need it, just plug it in. And as long as your car's working, you're going. And Jonathan Shalhoub, founder and CEO of Car Generators, offered a 10% discount for any of you guys watching this. All you got to do is enter Sokol 10, SOKOL 10. Any of you guys know what Sokol actually means? Let me see if anybody does. I won't say anything. If any of you know it, send it in the comments over here, and I'll do. But let's see if we can get Jonathan on there. Hey, Jonathan, let's go ahead and see if you can talk a little bit about this. Give me a second. Interview mode. There he is. Hey, Jonathan. Let's see. Let me hold on one second. I got to turn up. There he is. Hey, you're looking tan. Where the heck are you? Aren't you in the Great White North?
I'm in the Great White North, but we love to be outdoors and to be Airstreaming and to get out every weekend when we can. And I'm actually broadcasting live from my Airstream right now, which is the best place to be, of course.
Cool.
So yeah, I love it. And yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for the support of education for the RV crowd out there. That's a big help. I don't sell anything or fix anything. I just play with stuff and write about it. Is there anything else you want to add to what I've already talked about, or did I pretty much cover it?
I think you covered most of it. The one thing I just wanted to mention, a couple of the most common questions that people ask is number one question is, wow, is this bad for your car? Will it harm your car or burn out your alternator? And the answer is no, not at all. We've been in market for 6 years now. We've got thousands of customers coast to coast that use this for their RV or camping or home backup. I use it for both backup and for camping. And one of the most common questions people ask, will it burn out your alternator? And the answer is it won't, because all we're doing is, instead of when you're using your car or your truck, you're pulling out electrical power. When you're not going down the road and using lights and wipers and defrosters and everything else, we just simply pull that power out to use up to the maximum that your alternator can provide. Now, the rule of thumb is that alternator output is half at idle. So really simple calculation you can do. Check with your vehicle dealer to ask them, how many amps is my alternator? And they say it's 160 amps, it's 180 amps. Divide that in half, and then reduce it a little bit, and then multiply 13. And that will give you how many watts you can pull out. So, our big new unit that we're introducing, the 3000, this 3 kilowatt car generator, what looks like what you see behind me here. That's a really cool unit. That's 3,000 watts, and it weighs 17 pounds. That's it. So, and that requires an alternator output at idle of 230 amps. So people that have a dual alternator type truck, they got two double 220s, or you can high idle your alternator. You can do in some cases with that as well. So you've got a range. And other people just at rallies and things like that, I've had lots of people come up to me and say, at an Airstream rally, and say, look, I've carried around this gas generator in the bed of my pickup and all these smelly gas cans, and I use it, honest to God, I use it once or twice in a blue moon to watch TV or whatever. And so that's where car generator just comes in. No maintenance. You can stick it under the bed in your Airstream, or hide it in your closet in your Airstream, or throw it in the back of your SUV. Especially people that tow with an SUV or something that doesn't have an open bed as well. They love this product. So that's pretty much it. I would just say jump on to cargenerator.com. We've got a cool, just use SoCool10 as a discount code at checkout. And happy Airstreaming, everyone.
Cool. Well, very good.
If you have any
so
questions,
much.
Feel free to just post them, and I'll be happy to answer anything.
Right. And I'm going to be doing some additional review and setup on the new 3,000 watt version of it here in the next few weeks. So stand by. You can see all my stuff over on rvtravel.com. Okay. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Okay. And I'm heading back to the PowerPoint. Almost
Thanks.
done, everybody. Thank you all. Okay. So now... And yes, here's the beauty of the internet. You can point your phone at this and click on it, and guess what? Boom, it'll take you right to the site with the discount all set up. There you go. How's that for making it easy? Let's talk a little bit about, while we're at it, portable generator grounding and bonding. Let me see over here, make sure I don't have any other questions coming in. No, we're all good. Portable generators are normally hooked up through the shore power cord set, not a dedicated transfer switch. And some generators have an RV ready outlet. That means it's just a TT30 outlet, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's properly set up for RVs. You can plug it in, and you can get twist lock adapters, and dog bones can connect them. I have a whole series of articles that I've done just on dog bone adapters and how they work. So 2,000 watt generators, the 2,000 watt class, generally have a Edison 20 amp outlet wired for 120 volts and 20-ish amps, usually like 16 or 18 actually. 3,000 watt generators have a 3-wire 30 amp outlet wired for 120 volts. And 5,000 to 7,000 watt class generators have a 4-wire 30 amp outlet wired for 120 to 240 volts. Larger generators over 10,000 watts will have California or cam lock connectors. We're not covering those. I used to do those for rock concerts. You're not going to do that. But here's the key. You can get adapters for this. So for instance, you can get a 4-wire twist lock that would plug into a 120/240 volt generator. It will only pick off the 120 volts that you need for your 30 amp receptacle, your 30 amp power short power cord. And again, even though the generator set for 120, 240 volts, it should only deliver 120 volts to your RV. You may get into trouble though. Some inverter generators, well, I should say most, every one that I've ever seen now, have something that's called a floating neutral. And this will cause 3 light testers and EMS surge protectors to indicate open ground. So let's assume that you have a surge protector built into your RV, or you want to use one to power from your generator. The vast majority of them will shut down and say you have an open ground and you're in trouble. But I invented this little ground neutral shorting plug about almost 10 years ago. You can build your own for $2. You can buy one online, from Amazon for $10 or whatever. And I've actually seen them in a number of the Camping World stores. It's the simplest little thing. You can go look up neutral bonding thing, or I'll put some links on here tomorrow. That'll show you a number of my articles. I should tell you, if you want to know all of this stuff, I have, I think over last count, over 600 articles that I have posted on rvtravel.com alone. I'm all over the place. So if in fact, and in fact, if you go look on there, you'll see I actually have a book that I created, I built about 5 years ago, made. It's RV Electrical Safety, that you can get on Amazon. Again, those are all really, really good ways for you to learn about all of this stuff. Go into rvtravel.com and go look under Sokol or RV Electricity, and boom, I come up all over the place. I have a number, like I said, articles, videos on everything. The neutral grounding plug, again, this just plugs into an unused 20 amp outlet on the generator. I note that this has to be on the generator. It cannot be plugged into the RV. You can get it from Southwire, or you can build your own for a couple of bucks if you're a little careful. Portable generators absolutely do not need to have a ground rod. And that's all through code. It's everywhere. It's common sense. What you do not want to do is start pounding in a ground rod in a campground when there's electrical wires and plumbing and all kinds of stuff underneath of it. You never want to do that. Grounding rod is not a substitute for a proper neutral bond, or what we call, that ground neutral bond inside of it. So it will never help. And in fact, if you used one and you had a broken ground wire, it could create something called step potential, where as you walk up to the RV and you get close to it, you could get shocked just from your feet being a couple of feet apart on the ground. So you don't want separate ground rods for your RV. You just don't want to do it. Okay, look at that. I've come to the end of this. We're at 3 minutes after. To find more information, go to Mike. You can just go look up me on any of the forums. I'm Mike Sokol or JM Sokol on dozens and dozens of forums. I'm everywhere. My email address is mike@noshockzone.org. You can go to rvtravel.com or rvelectricity.com and find out hundreds and hundreds of my articles so that you can get smart about this. If you're a Facebook guy, look up RV Electricity or Go Green RV. I got tons and tons. On my RV Electricity Facebook page, I think I've got 16 or 17,000 users already. And you can go to YouTube. I have a RV Electricity channel. I just started a Go Green RV channel here a month or so ago. But I've got dozens and dozens of videos that I'm doing. And I'm getting a little bit better at this. You know how that goes. Or you can click here and subscribe to all of these things. You can subscribe just to all my RV Electricity things that come out. I do a Saturday one, which tomorrow, of course, and also one of my something is called Jam for Just Ask Mike sessions on Monday. It's a simpler one. Okay, everybody, let's see if we have any more questions. I don't see anything. We'll just give it a minute or so to see if anything else is coming in. But if not, I'm going to sign off and go drink an adult beverage. I will let you know that I've got 2 of my favorite things behind me. Well, actually 3 of my favorite things over here. I finally found a Flying Toasters screensaver, which I think is a ton of fun. Oh, but I better mute
That's cool.
Jonathan. There he is. He's saying cool. There he is. From the peanut gallery.
That's really cool. I love that. Flying toasters. That's so
Flying
cool.
Toasters is so 80s, right?
It's
On the
so
other
80s.
side, here, I've got my lava lamp, which I've had for like 20 odd years, which I love the lava lamp. Let's see if I'm pointing the right way. Back here that's actually a blacklight poster from Electro Harmonics. This is an homage to my misspent youth of rock and roll stuff in the 70s and 80s, and I still play a little bit here and there. You know, you may see me at some RV show, and I may drag a keyboard and guitar out, and we could have a good time. Electrical know-how over here. This is just a chart on wiring, so you can see what my life is all about. Okay, so let's see. I've got Michael Koppel says, thanks, I've learned a lot. Okay, Michael, thank you very much. And remember, this will be available for you forever, for you guys. It'll be up in a couple of minutes after this. You're more than welcome to share this with all of your friends. There are, like I said, I'll include direct links if you need to talk to Jonathan or any of these other guys with more questions. And beyond that, I hope you have a safe time out camping. Safe, and everybody stay safe and cool. Stay cool at home, because right now it's difficult. And if that's it, I'm going to sign off. Jonathan, thank you so much for sticking around and hanging out with us. Let me see.
Welcome.
I'll actually put you in here. Hold on here. Let's. Whoops. Where is my button? Too many darn buttons. There it is. Da, 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 da. So there you are. Whoops.
Oh.
Did I lose you? We must
No,
have.
hang on.
He
No.
had killed the button. I was going to let you do the big howdy high wave. One thing that there he is. One thing I'm working on here for you guys, for you Canadians. So I did this class right here just for Airstreamers, but I know that I've had a number of my RV electricity guys that are just from Canada. And so what I've thought about doing is one of these just specifically for Canada, for you guys. And if I only knew somebody in Canada that wanted to promote this across the Great White North, maybe it's Jonathan, and we would just promote it up there and do a seminar just like this in the next month or so. Just for our Canadian friends. And I'm going to be out at the Frog Rally, the Forest River Owners Group Rally in another 2 weeks, and I'll be covering this and doing a recording of that. So Jonathan, are you up for covering Canada? I think you could do it, right? Yeah, he's a little bit behind on the vocal here, but it's okay. Did I kill him? Interview mode. Oh yeah, we've lost his audio, sadly. Okay, well, Jonathan, wave bye-bye at everybody. I think. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm Mike Sokol from RV Electricity and the No Shock Zone, and thanks for attending. And leave comments later if any questions. Okay, thanks, everybody, and good night.